welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be my Championship Week 21 score predictions, as well as that it is also going to be my FA Cup 4th round score predictions. So this video is going to have a slightly different structure than my usual score prediction videos do, as we do have two competitions going on this weekend. We have still got some games going on in the Championship this weekend, and as well as that we have a whole bundle of games going on in the FA Cup as well. So this is a video, guys, where we're going to be going ahead and predicting them all. So if you've not seen my prediction videos yet, let me go ahead and quickly explain how it all goes down. So every week, guys, I give you guys my Championship score predictions for what I think will happen with each game in the Championship and in the FA Cup this weekend. FIFA 18 also makes their score predictions, but what I'm of course interested to know is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below, I'll leave all of this weekend's fixtures, and then you guys can easily go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do successfully manage to get any of them right, I will include your comment at the start of the next video. And the FA Cup this round has thrown up some interesting games for our Championship club, so this video will be split into two parts. The first half of the video is going to be me predicting the FA Cup 4th round games. We're going to be predicting all the games which do feature a Championship team and a couple of the other ones which do feature some of the big Premier League teams. And in the second half of the video, we will be going over all of the Championship games. And just before we do get into any of the score predictions, guys, we quickly have to touch on something. A pretty big talking point going around the Championship at this point in time was Leeds United, who recently announced their new badge for the upcoming season. And if you've not seen it before, here it is. My eyes are burning. What were Leeds thinking? I mean, make no mistake about this. This is genuinely awful, and funnily enough, 70,000 people have signed an online petition for Leeds to not use this badge. I mean, it just looks awful, doesn't it? It looks like the sort of badge which a YouTube football team would wear, you know? It doesn't look like a professional football team's badge, and whoever came up with that at Leeds, I don't know what they were thinking. Guys, what do you make of this? Let me know down below. But enough of that, guys. We'll now go ahead and get into some score predictions. So our first game to go ahead and predict taking place tonight in the FA Cup is the game taking place between Sheff Wednesday and Reading. Another thing I'd be interested to hear from you guys is, do you want to see your side make some changes for the FA Cup coming up this weekend? Do you want to prioritise the FA Cup this season, or are you not really that fussed about it? But talking over this game, two sides at the moment who find themselves in the lower region of the Championship. Reading especially in a really torrid run of form, you know. At least with Sheff Wednesday, since their new manager has come in, we've seen some positive signs from them, you know. We've seen them keep 2 clean sheets in a row, and the same just can't be said for Reading at the moment. Going forward for Reading especially has been a real problem for them, just looking so lethargic, and they are a side who plays with no urgency. And so for that reason, I have the impression that Sheff Wednesday will get the opportunity to push up the pitch in this one and really put that Reading defence under some pressure in this one. And for that reason, I've got to fancy a Sheff Wednesday victory for this one. And despite all the injuries they've got, I just have that impression that they'll have too much for Reading. So for that reason, I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory for Sheff Wednesday, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Wednesday. Then the next game sees Huddersfield Town go up against Birmingham. So of course, Huddersfield so far in the Premier League, on the whole, I've been largely impressed by them so far this season. You know, at the start of the season, we saw a lot of people predicting Huddersfield to go ahead and finish rock bottom of the Premier League, and I was quite pleased to see them do as well as they have done in the Premier League so far. But for this game, I anticipate both Huddersfield and Birmingham to make changes for this one. You know, in recent weeks, in fairness to Birmingham, we have seen some more positive signs from them. I still think they've got a couple of issues with their final product, but their transition in play from defence to attack has improved significantly over the last month or so. And so whether they'll take that into the FA Cup, though, I'm not so sure, because for Birmingham, their priority just has to be on the league this season and staying in the Championship. And for that reason, I do get the impression that Huddersfield will just have that extra bit of quality, especially going forward in this one. And so for that reason, I'm going to go for a 2-0 home victory for Huddersfield in this one, and FIFA's actually going to agree with me. The next game sees Hull City go up against Nottingham Forest, and Hull, of course, at this point in time are in a very similar situation to Birmingham, where I feel like the FA Cup just can't be a big priority for them this season. You know, only kept out of the bottom 3 at the moment by goal difference, of course. They lost to Sunderland away last week by 1-0, and things at the moment for Hull aren't looking brilliant for them. Going forward, once again, seems to be their problem at the moment, and I don't really see that improving against this Nottingham Forest side, who, of course, have looked so so much more organised under Isa Karanka. They got a fantastic result in their last game week, beating Wolves by 2-0, and I want to see Forest keep up this momentum under Karanka. And you know, with Forest not really having much to play for anymore, in my opinion, in the league, the FA Cup, they could go on a nice run in this, and for that reason, I do fancy them to get into the next round of this one. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory for Nottingham Forest, whereas FIFA's backing a 1-0 hold. Our next game sees Middlesbrough go up against Brighton, and of course Brighton at the moment going quite well in the Premier League. Of course, they're sat above the relegation zone, which will be the aim come the end of the season, but a trip away to Middlesbrough, I don't think it's going to be an easy task for the Premier League side in this one. Of course, since Middlesbrough have been under Tony Pulis, I've been largely impressed by their performances. They've not always got the results in the games, but since Gary Monk has left, I have seen an overall improvement in how Middlesbrough have been playing, and that was shown at last weekend with that 3-0 away victory over QPR. And if Middlesbrough can keep up that clinical nature in front of goal, I actually fancy them to knock out Brighton in this one. And so for that reason, I do anticipate Pulis to tinker with the side slightly from the one which does play in the league. But even so, I'm still going to go ahead and back a 2-1 home victory, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Brighton. The next game sees Millwall go up against Rochdale, and Rochdale at the moment really not going too well in League One. They're currently sat 23rd in the table, and they have lost their last 4 consecutive matches. And considering Millwall recently have been rolling out some fantastic performances, especially that one last time out against Leeds United, where they showed great character to go ahead and get back into it and go ahead and snatch the 4-3 victory in the end. And once again, Millwall at home this season, a really tough place to go to, and I just feel like we could see quite a few goals scored in this one. And so for that reason, I'm going to go for a 4-1 home victory for Millwall, whereas FIFA's saying this one will just be 1-0. The next game sees Sheffield United go up against my club Preston North End, and quite an interesting fixture this one actually. Of course, both sides will be having hopes come the end of the season to go ahead and finish in the playoffs, but I doubt that both sides will go ahead and field a full strength side for this one. I think they'll both play competitive teams, however I don't think all the big guns will be out for this one. In Preston's last game, it was probably their worst performance of the season actually, with that 1-1 draw against Birmingham. And I think that changes to the squad will be quite necessary and could actually be a good thing going into this one, you know, with some of the squad players who perhaps haven't had the most chances to shine so far this season. They'll get that chance to do so in this one here today, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we will actually go forward in this one. Sheffield United, though, definitely not an easy place to go to so far this season. Their home record really speaks for itself so far. That's why they do find themselves 6th in the table currently, and I'm actually fancying this one to go ahead and head to a replay, and I could see a few goals being scored in the FA Cup in this one. So for this game, I'm going to go ahead and predict it to finish as a 2-2 draw, whereas FIFA's back in a 2-0 Preston. And our last game to go ahead and predict from the Championship clubs in the FA Cup sees Cardiff go up against Manchester City on the Sunday, and a very interesting encounter actually. Of course, we recently saw Manchester City go ahead and knock Bristol City out of the League Cup, but Bristol City did go ahead and put up a fight in this one, and I have a feeling that Cardiff will go ahead and do the same. Of course, Cardiff and Bristol City do play two quite contrasting styles, so I'm interested to see if Cardiff are more effective against this Manchester City side. Of course, playing a more direct style of football, you know, Neil Warnock will look to set up some blocks of 4 really to look and limit Man City going forward, and so I fancy Cardiff to get a goal in this one, but let's be real, Man City are just on another level so far this season. But I have the impression Cardiff will make them work for it, but even so, I think City's quality will shine through in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-1 away victory for Man City, whereas Steve is saying this one will be a 0-0. And then we'll go ahead and quickly predict some of the other FA Cup games, just for a bit of fun, which don't include some Championship sides. So we see Yeovil go up against Manchester United. For that one, I've got to go for a 2-0 United victory for that one. I just feel like they'll have a bit too much for Yeovil. Newport County going up against Spurs. Newport, I feel like they could cause Spurs quite a few problems in this game, and you may be thinking I'm mad for this one, but I'm going to go ahead and fancy them to go ahead and get a replay at Wembley. I'm going to predict Newport to go ahead and hold Spurs to a 1-1 draw. Our next game then sees Liverpool go up against West Brom, and Liverpool are very much a hit or miss sort of side, sort of like Fulham in the Championship really is how I describe subscriber Liverpool, but going up against West Brom, I'm going to predict them to get a 3-0 victory. And then we do see Chelsea go up against Newcastle. Chelsea at the moment in a really torrid run of form, of course. We saw them the other night go ahead and be knocked out by Arsenal of the League Cup, and at the moment Chelsea, things just aren't looking brilliant around the club. The same could be said for Newcastle, but even so, with how Rafa Benitez likes to play, quite a frustrating style to play against, and with Chelsea not scoring a lot of goals at the moment, I'm going to fancy Newcastle to get a draw out of that one. I'll say it'll finish 1-1. So guys, there were the FA Cup games which are taking place this weekend. So do you guys agree with my score predictions? Let me know down below. But now guys, we will move on into our championship games. So our first game to go ahead and predict sees Barnsley go up against Fulham, and of course in Fulham's last game they managed to go ahead and put 6 goals past Burton Albion. So the Barnsley defence is going to have to be on top form to go ahead and keep a clean sheet in this one. But you do tend to see a trend in the championship. When a side goes ahead and gets a massive victory one week, they tend to struggle a little bit in their next game week, and so I don't fancy Fulham to have it all their own way in this one. Of course, Barnsley at times, they can be their own worst nightmare, you know. In their last game against Aston Villa, I actually thought they played quite well. It was just they limited themselves so early on by conceding the early goals, by letting Aston Villa in, and then they couldn't get back into the game. But I have a feeling that if Barnsley are able to keep this one tight in the early stages, they may be able to nick something on the counter-attack. But eventually, I think that Fulham going forward, their quality will show through in this one, and I'm going to go ahead and predict it to finish as a 1-0 away victory for Fulham. I don't think they'll score all too many goals in this one. I think Barnsley will have seen how good they were against Burton and look to plug up those gaps, but eventually Fulham will shine through. I'll say 1-0. FIFA is also going to agree with me. The next game sees Brentford go up against Norwich, and of course with Brentford really in the hunt for the playoffs at the moment, this is another game which they will set their sights on going ahead and picking up 3 points in. But Norwich are no easy customers so far this season, of course. They have had a couple of collapses so far, but at the moment they're generally not on a bad run at the moment in terms of their performances, and Norwich more than have the players to go ahead and damage Brentford going forward if all their attacking options are on form for this one. But with Brentford wanting to keep up the chase for the playoffs, I feel like their attacking quality, they're going to go ahead and pepper this Norwich goal with a lot of shots in this one, and it's just a question of how long they can withstand that for and then look to nick a goal on the counter-attack, in my opinion. But in my opinion, I am going to fancy Brentford to go ahead and do this one by 2-1. I'll say 2-1 Brentford. FIFA saying 1-0 Norwich. The next game sees Bristol City go up against QPR, and first things first, I have to say well done really to Bristol City. Although they didn't manage to go ahead and make it into the final of the cup, I have to say the performances over the 2 legs that they did put up against Man City, it was a valiant effort from Bristol City, I think that has to be said. But snapping back into the championship now, they're still not on a great run actually. They've gone ahead and not picked up a victory now in their last 4 games, and they've seen, you know, their hopes of automatic promotion slowly slip away in the last couple of weeks. And a game against QPR won't be the easiest fixture in the world, of course. QPR will be wanting to bounce back from that defeat last time against Middlesbrough, and I actually find them to be quite a tricky customer to come up against now and again, and I feel like the way Ian Holloway will look to set up his side, Bristol City could find this one quite frustrating, and as this Bristol City side are more likely to be quite fatigued from the City game, I'm going to go ahead and predict this one to finish as a 1-1 draw, with FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 QPR. And then the last game in the championship to go ahead and predict sees Ipswich Town go up against Wolves. Now, under normal circumstances, I'm sure a lot of people would be predicting a Wolves victory, but you have to look at Wolves' recent form, of course. Well, by no means is this a collapse in their season. You know, I've seen a couple of people suggest that, but I think that's way too extreme to be suggesting at this point. You know, they've just dropped a couple points in their last few games, but this game against Ipswich could be another potential banana skin for them. You know, with the way Mick McCarthy likes to set up his Ipswich side, they're going to go ahead and look to be hard to beat in this one. And considering that Wolves going forward lately haven't been completely on song and firing on all cylinders like they were about a month ago really, I do fancy Ipswich to go ahead and stifle Wolves in this one, of course. If Wolves go ahead and completely click in this one and turn their form around, of course they're capable of putting quite a few past Ipswich. Ipswich. But with Ipswich's presence going forward from set pieces, that could cause Wolves some problems. And with this Wolves side just looking to lack a bit of confidence at the moment, I'm going to go ahead and predict this one to finish as a 1-1 draw. With FIFA saying it'll be a goalless draw. So guys, there you have it. That will wrap it up for my Championship Week 21 and FA Cup 4th round score predictions. So do you guys agree with my predictions this week? Let me know down below. But apart from that guys, that will wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.